This video is meant to be used along with my video on writing works cited pages and bibliographies, so if you haven't seen that one yet, make sure you watch it as well. This video is focusing on how to write the individual citations for each source. First, I want to be clear on what a citation is and what it means. Here, you see an example of a citation and annotation for one source, a history book about the Ku Klux Klan. This is the annotation, the short paragraph where you explain what the source is about, how you plan to use the information in the source, and why the source is credible and reliable. This is the citation, the list of the author, title, publisher, etc., which gives your reader information to find the source. The citation tells the reader if the source is a book, a website, an article, an encyclopedia, how old the source is, and where it came from. Formatting your citations is very important. The formatting in a citation is not random. The punctuation and format is like a code to help the reader quickly identify what kind of sources you used. Once you know how to read the code, you will be able to quickly determine what kind of source this is and where it came from. I'm going to break down the formatting code for you now, and then we'll look at some examples. First, you have the author, always listed by last name first and then first name. The last and first name are separated by a comma and finished with a period. Sometimes, with certain sources, the author's name might not be available. With any of these formatting points, if something isn't available, you just skip it and go on to the next one. But if an author's name is available, you definitely want to credit them for their source. Next, you have the title of the article. An article title gets quotation marks. Next, you have the title of the complete work. This might be a book, an encyclopedia, or the full title of a website. Regardless of what type of source it is, the title of the complete work gets italicized or underlined. They mean the same thing, and ends with a comma. Next, you have other contributors. Besides the author, these people might be editors, translators, illustrators, anything like that. And they finish with a comma. Next, you have the version number and volume number. These are usually used for things like encyclopedias or journals, but you should always look for them just in case. Next, you have the publisher, also ended by a comma. This could be the publishing company or name. Next, you have the publication date. Usually for books, you'll just have the year, but for websites, you should also look for the month and day of publication, and finished with a comma. And finally, you have the location. The location is specifically where the reader should go to find the source. For a website, this would be the URL or web address and the date that you accessed the site, and finish it with a period. Now let's look at some examples and see if we can read the code in the citation formatting. This first example I can clearly see is a website because I see the web address at the end. But first we have the author, Mark Bernstein, listed by his last name first, and finished with a period. Next we see that this is an article from his website, the article title, 10 Tips on Writing the Living Web. We see that this article comes from his complete website, a list apart for people who make websites. This is italicized to show it is the title of the whole website. And we see next that he published his website on August 16th of 2002. For the location, we have the web address and the date that the person accessed it, May 4th, 2009. Our next example is a book I can see because there is no website listed and no database title. The book is written by Michael Foucault, which is listed first, last name, then first name. The title of the book we see is Madness and Civilization, A History of Insanity in the Age of Reason. And we know that the person doing the research used the entire book because they did not include an article title. They just included the title of the whole book. So that means they used the entire source, not just one little part of it. Next, we see that this book was translated by a man named Richard Howard, so he contributed to the book as well. It was published by Vintage Random House in 1988. And that's the end of the book citation. It is important for you to format your citations correctly because you will also use those citations within your writing to connect quotations to the sources that they came from. Consider this example here. New writers should consider that, quote, if the words are dull, nobody will read them, and nobody will come back. If the words are wrong, people will be misled, disappointed, and infuriated, end quote. Here you see a parenthetical citation. What this means is that this short citation here inside the parentheses is connecting this quotation to the source it came from, which is listed on your bibliography. Here you see this quotation came from Mark Bernstein's website. We know that because Bernstein's name is listed inside the parentheses. In a parenthetical citation, you always use the first part of the citation on your bibliography. In this case, it's the author's last name, but it might be the article title if no author is available. But the point is, this connects the quotation with the source, and then the reader can see the source that it came from and how to find that source if they need more information. Figuring out how to write citations can be difficult. I've been doing this for years, and sometimes even I still get confused. But don't worry, there are plenty of resources available to help you. Two resources that I most frequently use in my classes are Noodle Tools and the Purdue OWL. Noodle Tools is a computer program that will basically write the citation for you, but only if you enter the information in it correctly. I've had a lot of students use Noodle Tools and put the information in wrong. Perhaps they mix up the article title and the book title, and then Noodle Tools spits out an incorrect citation. Noodle Tools is a nice resource to have, but I always caution my students against relying on it too much. Remember, Noodle Tools is just a computer program. It doesn't know what you're trying to do or why, and it can't check that you're doing it correctly. It just generates a citation based on the information you give it. So be sure that you enter all of your information correctly. If you are unsure, ask for help. If you prefer to not use Noodle Tools, the Purdue University Writing Lab is a great resource to help you write citations by hand. Honestly, sometimes I find that writing them by hand is easier for me than using Noodle Tools because I can easily and quickly check my own work. The Purdue website gives instructions and examples for all three citation styles, MLA, Chicago, and APA, and it breaks down every type of source you might use: books, websites, encyclopedias, newspapers, films, even Twitter. Remember, writing citations can be tricky and difficult, so be patient with yourself. Use the code designation in the formatting to relay to your readers what kind of sources you used. And as always, if you have questions, be sure to ask.